Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Contour Community Meeting. Today is November 2nd, 2022, here on the East Coast of the United States of America. Today, we got the...
2021, right?
What?
2021, you said 2022.
I'm hoping this year can just be over soon. We're almost there. November 2nd, 2021. There we go. Yes. Yeah. So attendees here, the maintainer team, as per usual. Do we have any announcements today?
Yes. So we've talked a little bit about internally in one of the maintainer meetings, but we are planning currently to cut an RC build, an early RC build of the 120 release, which is going to be currently scheduled for sometime mid-January. But we're going to try and cut an RC build in December sometime. That will be the first Contour build to basically fully support the Gateway API v1 Alpha 2. The intent there is to be able to let people who want to try out Gateway API have crack. There's a lot to do to like update our docs and stuff like that, and we'll probably need to put some things in there to say, as of RC1 blah blah blah, then this doesn't work and some other things like that. But yeah, the idea is to get the code out there so that people can try it out, and then we can work on updating docs and stuff like that later. I want the Gateway API community to be able to try out the Gateway API stuff we've done in v1 Alpha 2 in a reasonably reliable way. And we are we are probably the furthest ahead at the moment on actually doing the implementation. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we'll try and do that sometime in December. So Chris is running the Gateway API v1 Alpha 2 implementation work. Do you want to say anything there, Steve?
Not much, just to, I think we're in pretty good shape as far as implementing the spec of Gateway and HTTP route and TLS route, which are really the core features. We definitely still have some gaps as far as writing all of the status information for all the various scenarios. So I think that's what we'll be looking to shore up between now and then. But we have a Gateway API label in the repo, so if you're interested in seeing what's left or pitching in, just filter on that label and you can take a look at the backlog.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Okay, so that's pretty much all the status updates we have at the moment, but we wanted to start doing a bit more public issue triage. So we've talked a little bit recently amongst the maintainers that we've been trying out a few ways of finding for the maintainers and for people who are spending a lot of time working on Contour to find like what's up next, what should we be doing. And Alex, as the product manager, also needs a way to plan out like what features go into what release. So I think I'm going to say what I think the current plan is. Please, others here, please feel free to correct me if I miss something. Yeah, so the current plan, so actually I'll share my screen. Okay. So this is the normal issue board. We do have the easiest way, thanks GitHub, the easiest way to get to this is to find a issue that's actually so we've got a couple of project boards and yeah, that one. No, this one. And we do have access to the new project beta for GitHub as well. So this is the project board that Alex uses for sort of picking out what things will go in roughly what version. I think actually, sorry, just looking, I think that move off Docker.io, we may actually be able to close soon. See, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, the last thing there is just to stop actually pushing to Docker Hub, which we said we'd give a couple of releases until we stopped. So. Yeah,
okay, cool. Okay, so but yeah, we do have another. But what we've talked about doing is instead of using for the people who are actually working on Contour, Alex will use this to plan out what goes in what release. But for the people who are actually working on Contour, we're going to use the milestones. So this is the 120 milestone. Well, I'm going to update the. Let me update the date. Call it mid-January. And then 121, we don't have a due date for yet. Good. So what we're going to start doing is when Alex puts things into a column on the project board, he will also set the milestone. And then so for those of us or anybody of you who want to work on things coming out in Contour, you can either pick up something that you want to do, or if you're looking for something to help out on Contour, then you can feel free to pick up anything in the 120 milestone. That's the stuff that we're currently wanting to ship in 120. We're also using the typical stuff of putting the PR in there so that when the PR is closed, the milestone gets filled out. That means that also that whoever's the release lead for the release can keep track of the burn down and figure out where we're at. So yeah, so that's what we're planning to do in terms of how we actually work. What we want to do in this meeting is to go through the stuff that's in the various columns, make sure that things that are in a column have a milestone, and talk about new stuff and where we put it. Agreed? Cool. Okay. So let's just quickly run through what we have in 120 at the moment. We've got a few bits and pieces. Some of these are older issues. ALS is older. This one has just been carried forward because I is still working on it. So we're just, until he has a chance to finish it up, we're just going to keep rolling that forward. And I think there's a few things we've got to do this one. We've got a bunch of gateway API changes. We've got a few recent bugs, thanks to Raveler for this one, that the disable allow chunk length is actually double negated. So, and it's already a double negated name. So it's very confusing about what you actually have to set it to make anything happen. Right now, you are disabling the allow chunk length setting, but you actually have to set it to false for it to work because it gets double negated and so on along the way. So extremely confusing. Sanjay is working on fixing it up. And also Sanjay, I think you were looking to work on some stuff to make it so that this stuff won't happen so much in the future. You want to just run through that?
Yeah, I just right now just making a tactical fix to make sure that that is fixed. But I think future refactors trying to structure the code in a ways that kind of make it a little bit more obvious when something like that happens. And it's also just part of having good test coverage for a lot of the configuration parsing and passing to different components, making sure that those things are well tested. So, yep. Nick, you're muted.
Thanks, Sanjay. That's better. My fancy Stream Deck thing didn't work that time. Dang. Okay. So in our board, we've got a few columns. We've got this prioritized backlog. I'm kind of not sure. There's heaps of issues we could possibly look at. I'm kind of not sure where to start. Thoughts, Sanjay, Steve, Kay, anyone else? Should I run through the investigating ones? We can see if any of those have updates. Or should we run through the prioritized backlog? Or should we go and look at the new stuff and try and get it prioritized?
Like the just net new stuff in the issues, like page generally.
Yeah.
So before we filtered on the needs triage tag, but I don't know. That doesn't always get added to every issue. Because depends on the template that you use. I don't know. Sorry, Steve K, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, I think at some point we should go through the 120 column and make sure everything in there has a milestone, so that we're seeing it kind of regardless of which view we're looking at, because I know there are some things in here that don't have it.
I just did that. I just did that for a couple of issues because we're looking at the the developers board now. So I just want to make sure it's all captured.
Give you a thought. My experience from Apache HTTPD, which has been collecting issues for over 25 years now. So its back queue is literally insane. One of the things that I find helps, you can probably eliminate triage. I think that's just whoever is doing the weekly rotation of finding an assignee for inbound stuff. That's kind of something that doesn't need the full attention of the group to initially dispatch it. Trying to dig through the non-priority backlog is almost never terribly productive for this sort of thing. So I would kind of, probably the most useful thing we can do on this particular call is go back through the prioritized backlog and pull things forward that have fell off the radar, but need to be back up there, and they've already gotten everybody's attention at least once. That would be my thought.
Thanks, Bill. I think that's pretty useful. Sanjay, Steve, sound good to you?
I think we should, I agree with that, first of all. Thanks. But I think we should figure out, like, is the 1.20 release column accurately reflecting what we're actually doing? Because the 120 is
The current one. Yep.
it's already started, right?
Just looking at this, it looks like there's a couple of things there that don't have 120, but most of them do now.
I mean, that's the point, right, Alex? I mean, it's
Yeah.
ping pong. What needs to fall off of the 120 release target and what needs attention there, and then what
Yeah.
didn't make it into that from the priority backlog.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I think the other thing that's important about 120 is we specifically called out that this one we are trying to do as a bit of a hardening release and look back through the backlog for features that we've been meaning to do for a while that will help the operability and sort of reliability of Contour, because this is going to be the first quarterly release, and it's a long release cycle. So we're trying to fix up as many niggly things as we can to by that I just said a bad word. I mean things that niggle, not any other word, sorry. So we need to fix up as many things that are annoying as possible in this release. So yeah, I think that that one so yeah, I think we've probably, it looks like we've done the sort of the quick pass through the 120 column. Let's have a look at the prioritized backlog and see if there's any things that we think we could squeeze, that we could fit in the 120 timeframe, that are going to be nice fixes for people, for things that are annoying in some way. So
Hey, Nick, real quick. So there's nothing in 120 that, like, everything in 120 we're actually going to do. It just looks very packed. So
yeah, I mean we have until
we have
until next January, so we got quite a while. So it's okay to, I think, to have a bunch of work in there. But I think there's a bunch of stuff here that is annoying, like that needs to be fixed. Like this is a good example, this one here. Yeah, so basically because we validate the CNs right now we look at we unwrap the certificate a little bit and we check that that there's a CN or subject alt name. But yeah, it looks like there's some weird, because if you have root certificates in there, then that will mean they fail the check because they don't have CNs. Root certificates do not have CNs. Yeah, so it could be so this one is one where someone needs to go in and have a think about it and make a call about how much validation we do of certs. Do we just validate that there's a complete chain there, or that it matches a complete chain with a browser or something like that, or do we just be like, shrug, Envoy will figure it out, off you go. Yeah, so that one, I think that one should be in 120. Yeah, just looking here. There are some ones here that are a bit bigger though, like the allow list and block list is a nice to have by a lot of people. Yeah, but there's some design work that we need to do there to make it work. Just looking at it, can anyone else see anything that that they don't think makes it in there? I kind of don't want to go through all of these one by one because there is a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, not actually going through each issue, but like just, you know,
Yeah.
at a glance, is there anything that we think that we want to push out to 121? I moved the sign contour builds out to 121 because it's not super urgent.
Yep. So maybe Steve K, could I get you to take a look at this one since you've been elbows deep in this code?
Yeah, I don't really know what to do with this one. Like, we don't have the validation package anymore, and there's very little in the upstream package. So it seems like maybe this is just something we should defer for a little bit.
Okay.
It's kind of just like an internal refactoring.
Right. Okay, so let's if that's the case, then let's just punt it to 121 and we'll talk about it then. There's no okay. Yay, look at us, we're triaging. Okay. There's a couple of stale PRs in here that probably we should look at. Let's have a look at this one. Okay, yeah. So this is the one where so Taro is working on setting TLS v1.3 as a minimum TLS protocol version for communication between Contra and Envoy. There's some funkiness with actually doing the upgrade, but I think we did merge, I think, to allow TLS 1.3 for 119, and then so that way, now that we allow TLS 1.3 and all of the envoys that have been updated to the bootstrap, if the bootstrap has been updated for your envoys by upgrading to 119, Contour 119 and Envoy 119, then when you upgrade to Contour 120, if we mandate it, then you won't have an outage or a problem. So that's where this one is at.
So this one's mergeable in this release, but it wasn't mergeable in the previous release because of the stepped nature.
Yep. So yeah. After I'll just update this. I'll remove the style. So I should be able to remove do not merge as well, right? Yep. Cool. Okay, that's now. Are there any other in terms of PRs? We've got the bump envoy PR, Sanjay.
That'll probably have to wait to 1.20.1 of Envoy. So I don't. Bill mentioned that was going to come out possibly.
Soteris is planning to pick up that one. We're still working on what the fix is exactly, but yeah, this is the 1.20.0 is the regression on startup speed, which we
right. Okay, yes.
Yeah,
yep.
Someone with that issue.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, with that fix, it seemed like it was fixed, but I mean, I don't know if our tests are exhaustive for the whole problem, but I guess, yeah, block needs envoy. That's like the
Yeah.
the
Do we
exact.
have a, hang on. That's the one. That's the correct one. Cool. That's that makes it clearer, right? Oh, here a little bit here.
I'm just wondering if there's a ticket on like configuring the priority of the external auth versus global rate limit. Like it's
There is an
the
issue
user
on
wants
that. Yep.
It's towards the
Absolutely.
bottom of the list. I saw it down there.
3726. I'm just wondering if that's
Yep.
going to be in 120.
Well, I mean, it can be, yeah. So I think so the idea is just to make it configurable. Do you think what, Sanjay, you did this one last time? Oh, there's a rate limit before off, huh? So yeah, just looking at this, does anyone recall the state from reading their own comments?
I think
know it's
someone
hard to
needs to look at it a little more to figure out if there's just one static order, or if we need to expose a config nom for it.
Okay.
And then what level the config nom is at.
Yeah, as usual, that's the usual. That's the
I mean,
usual
it's a
thing. Is
design.
Yeah, so it needs design. Yeah, let's put it in.
I think he makes a good point, right? With the way we have it now by default, it doesn't protect him.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just put that as needs design. One of us needs to sit down and pick that one and figure out what to do. Cool. System is working.
And I think there's another one about, I think like someone reported an issue. I replied to it earlier today. The if you had like a wildcard, like one route was a wildcard using ingress, and the other one is a specific match using
Yes, this
HTTP
one.
proxy. It for some reason uses the wildcard. I feel like that default. I think the logic you talked about that probably
Yep.
needs some work. I think.
Yeah, that was interesting with the originally in the issue, the person's like, I had it working and then I couldn't reproduce it again or something. But yeah, I think we should have at least a test in Contour that verifies exactly what we want to have. Because I don't think we have that many tests with different resource types together.
Yeah, I think I suspect that this one is just that we don't. I don't think we resort all of the rules when we add new rules. So like we add the wildcard rule, so and then we sort them so that the more specific overrides the wildcard. But then in the next processor, when we run the HTTP proxy processor, I don't think we don't like resort all of the rules. We only sort the ones that we put in for the HTTP proxy processor. I suspect that's going to be what it is. And then so the rules end up being that you have the wildcard one above the HTTP proxy one because it was the ingress one and it happened first. That's what I think it would be. But
we now have wildcard support for HTTP proxy too, so we got to consider kind of all the permutations here.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we should definitely. So I think Steve was investigating this. Hasn't done an update yet. So I think we should probably leave this one in the investigating column and ping Steve to update. And I'll take off needs triage and put investigating because that's what it should be. But we should try. I think we should try and fix this in 120 though.
So Nick, I Okay, so you're saying the design is being investigated, right? The
Yeah,
solution is
yeah,
being
like-
investigated.
Yes. So it should be lifecycle accepted. Sorry, that's
I always took that label to mean like
Yeah.
the issue is being investigated. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not that like
yeah.
it
So
goes
we
from
agree that there is an
investigation
issue. Yeah.
to
We
P1,
agree
P2,
that
P3,
Yeah.
P2, P1, and then to prioritized, and then to one of the releases. So it's
Okay.
like if we're gonna do it, I feel like it shouldn't be in
Yeah.
investigating.
It should be in 120. Yeah. Let's do that. I agree. You're right. So we've accepted that this is an issue. We would like to fix it in 120. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
if we don't have time to do it in 120, we can always push it out. But I feel
I
like
think it's
that
actually
is
not-
something we should start looking.
Um, cool. Okie dokie. So I think just looking at ones that have labels and don't have labels.
Are we the Knative issue that's towards the top there, tire feedback loop? Are we actually going to tackle this? I mean, I know this has been around for a while.
Yeah,
Is this
yeah.
something we're going to do in this cycle.
Yeah, what do we want?
What-
I guess what do we want to do here? Do we want to add more to our CI? Seems like something that they should run against main in their CI if they really want to have a super tight feedback loop with Contour.
Yeah, it feels like they have, so the point of this is Knative have really good tests for Contour because they have tests that actually will probe and figure out when the Contour has arrived at Envoy. Because of that, they have numbers for how long that takes. And so those numbers are actually a really good like headline benchmarky kind of number. And so I guess the point of this was to say, hey, Knative have really good Contour tests. Is there something that is there somewhere that we can either run those tests directly or take something that they are doing and run that in our testing so that we can get access to the same sort of stuff, the same sort of numbers that they have. That was the original point of this. So I think that probably the key thing is the probing logic that they have.
Yeah, what they do is they have a controller running that like knows all the Envoy endpoints and figures out where your app is running or where whatever app is running and probes that Envoy exactly to see if it's up, like if the app is available.
Yeah.
Which
Yes, I remember that there's basically they just keep requesting. They just keep doing a request to the known app until it's up, and then be like, okay, and on a reasonably short time, like repeat window, and then once they're like, okay, now the config is there, and now we can proceed with the rest of the tests. Thanks, Jonas. Cool. So yeah, I think it seems like probably a lot of what you're doing, Sanjay, with the testing and building up performance stuff will be helpful. But it feels like the thing that we probably want
that's like probing stuff is kind of part of how that test works right now so far.
Yeah.
Basically the same kind of logic. So
yeah. So this is on you, but it feels like maybe we might not finish it, but we kind of want to work on it for a bit. Because of I kind of want to leave it up to you, Sanjay, to sort of figure out how you want to represent all of this work, given the issues that you have already, and if you want to like log one and make it an epic and put these in there or something, or have a think about how you would like to track the work that you're doing, because you've got a lot of different streams possibly running.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll try to tomorrow. I'll try to get more organized about how all these issues are and have list them out so it's more you can see more progress and stuff.
Yeah,
as well.
I think that's a good idea because all of this stuff that you're doing is really important, and I don't want the community to miss out on being able to keep track of what's going on.
Yeah, I think I've been getting a little bit distracted in interesting things about the little details. But yeah, I'll get a little bit more organized and have a tracking issue about and steps and stuff. So
Yeah, you got to eat your veggies and keep your tracking tidy, right?
right. Can't just have dessert all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, let's leave that one there. I'm not sure. Let's check this one. It's in here.
What
but I
about
haven't-
the?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Yep. I think we can do
Let's
yours
do that one
first.
first. Yeah. Oh, okay, right. So yeah, I think we check for the type of the secret at the moment rather than checking for the contents. Or something. This is actually another one where if the CA cert doesn't have a CN or subject alt name. So yeah, it feels like 2372 and this one should be addressed at the same time by the same person. And we should do them this cycle for sure. So yeah, it should not be lifecycle investigating. It should be lifecycle accepted. So yeah, and then that will close out this one too. I thought so. Alex here did a really, this was a really, I was really impressed with this issue. This is a really thorough issue that has great, that's very easy to understand because he put so much effort into writing a really good issue. Okay, cool. So yeah, Alex, what was the one that you wanted to talk about?
Just search for OIDC.
Okay.
It's like an epic.
Yeah. So, okay, so yeah, we've talked a little bit about this. We talked a bit about this internally. So right now, Contour supports OIDC in the sense that you can run an external authorization server and point that to OIDC. But I think the thing that's come up, this use case has come up a lot, that OIDC is a very common use case that actually has like inline Envoy support. So you can actually configure Envoy to do the OIDC flow for you without needing to run an extra service. And I think, Alex, the way you described it is, it'd be nice if Contour users didn't need to run an extra authorization. It's actually an authentication service for just to be able to do OIDC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've seen requests from users as well as customers. Basically, they have different OIDC providers, right? Different identity providers. So some are using Keycloak, some are using Okta, or it could be Google. And basically they need Contour to work with no IDC provider out of the box, right? So I think that the current experience of installing Contour and then going to a different repository under Project Contour to deploy something else, can we perhaps put that, right? Can we work that into the Contour installation itself? Because that seems unnecessary and seems like a lot to just get OIDC hooked up.
Yeah, I think in the
That's
past,
kind
we've been a little bit reluctant because of the because there's quite a bit of config for OIDC. There's like seven or eight fields or something like that you've got to configure. And we've also been wary because of problems that we've had before, where with Envoy knacking changes. So if you make a change and Envoy can't do it for some reason, then you can break the connection between Contour and Envoy. So that's one of the reasons why I've been like, ooh, and that's one of the reasons why we moved to the external auth server first, because we're like, well, you can solve all of these problems with an external auth server, and then we can validate the external auth server config before we send it to Envoy, and then the external auth server is where you configure all this stuff, and it can deliver you its own. It can solve the problem another way. So for us to be able to do this stuff in Contour, like I'm not opposed in principle. Like it does make sense that this is a common use case. Lots of people want to be able to do OIDC flows, and it would be really nice to be able to just have Contour do this without having to run the external authentication server. If we do this, then the external authentication server is going to be for things for LDAP or for other stuff that doesn't have a native Envoy filter. And I think that will need to be it feels to me like that's the pretty clear demarcation point here is if we do this, it's because we're doing it because it has a native Envoy filter. Does that make sense?
I think so. I mean, I know that people want support for SAML as well, and LDAP, but we can treat those cases separately, right? But I agree. This is predicated on the fact that Envoy provides an OIDC OAuth filter, OAuth 2 filter, presumably. So we'd be leveraging those capabilities. If Envoy didn't have it, then that could be our reason not to do it.
Yeah. And so I think that's the way for us. That feels like the way for us to. That feels like the way for us to sort of be able to make these calls in the future and to give everybody a pretty clear line about what we'll put into Contour versus what we'll say, oh no, you use external authentication for that. And that's, if there's an Envoy filter to do it in Envoy that we can just pass config to Envoy and have Envoy do the work, then we will do it in Contour. Otherwise, you're going to need to use the external authentication support we already have. Does that seem fair, Sanjay, Steve?
Yeah, I was thinking that's consistent with what we did with rate limiting, right? We have local rate limiting, which uses built-in Envoy filters, and then we have global rate limiting, which requires an external rate limit service. So it's kind of the same principle.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Okay, so so I think what that means is that we can say, okay, look, we're going to this is a needs design for sure. So this needs a design, and also I think that once, I mean, I'm not super familiar with like how the OIDC stuff works, but I feel pretty confident in saying that if we support OIDC in general, we should support any OIDC provider. Does anyone know more about it than I do? Does that makes, like, if you support one OIDC provider and the config that you need to supply to be able to support one, then you support all of them? Because it's just a standard flow.
I think the flow is the same. Yes, it follows a spec. But I think we have to test each provider. I think we have to test it. So
I think practically, I I don't feel like we will build. We're not going to build like CI to test those things. We're going to build the OADC support and be like, okay, this OADC support works with Okta and Keycloak and Auth0 or whatever, you know, and validate it once in an issue, and then be like, okay, we tested it at this point. We're pretty confident that it'll stay working, and call it done. Like, yeah,
I think that's exactly it. There's no need for CI. Just test it once. If people come, if people have issues, then we can help them triage. But I
and
think it's just the experience of setting up the endpoint. It might be a little different between different providers.
Yeah.
But the way the claims come through, that should all be standard.
There is a caveat on the extension itself that it's not had substantial production burn time
right, okay,
on the Envoy documentation. It exists and it probably is good, but that caveat exists as a note on the Envoy documentation.
So
Yep,
what
so
does
I
that mean exactly for people not familiar with Envoy?
So they've started like labeling filters as like at the support level or at the like maturity level, I guess, that you should expect, and like some detail about how it can be used in the security. Like, is it robust against, for example, they always put a note like, is it robust against untrusted traffic, or does it assume that traffic is trusted or something like that? Just based on the level of hardening and whatnot that they've done to the filter and the like, it's like circuit breaking potentially or whatever other things that they might do if there's failures. So yeah, I don't know exactly the label. I don't know when they would update it or how long it's been in this state. Could look maybe through Git history, but that's the note on the
I think that when we document this feature, we all need to pass that documentation through and say, this feature was released in Contour, blah, blah, blah. At that time, the maturity level of the filter involved was blah, blah, blah. You know, please check here, you know, to see the most recent information or something like that. That way we can be like, hey, you know, you need to do a bit of due diligence here. Don't just blindly use this and be like, and then get mad at us later if you know, if there's a security problem in it when Envoy said, hey, this is, you know, we're confident this does what it says it does, but we haven't, you know, exhaustively tested all the security bits of it. I think that's especially important with security config like this.
I mean, Envoy is an open source project, right? So you can't really hold them to any level of accountability. We just have to take their word for it, I guess, with adequate validation ourselves.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and so, yeah, I mean, obviously this thing will have to have CI of some sort to validate that if you configure an OADC filter that it does OADC. Exactly how we do that, well, I don't know, but you know, at some point we're going to need to have a test that tests this actually does what we think it does. Probably an initial smoke test of doing it manually might be okay. But yeah, I'm not sure how we will write the test for that. Yeah, thanks, Sanjay. That's cool.
Thanks.
So the thing is, it's functional, but it has not had substantial production or burn time, and it's intended to be robust against untrusted downstream traffic, i.e. internet traffic, but it assumes the upstream is trusted. So don't use this if you're forwarding off to some external name service you don't know. It's the caveat. So I think those are pretty fair caveats. But yeah, we need to ensure that if we add this, we add those caveats ourselves, or say at least check this reference for the caveats. Cool. Okay, we have done 20 past. So yeah, I think the net result here is that yes, we want to this needs a design, but that we are accepting this one.
We're going to try and get this implemented in 120 or just get the design done?
It depends on how long it takes to get the design run, right? So I think that the the first goal is get the design done. If someone picks this up, gets the design done, and then has a fair idea of how to implement it, then great. But I think at least that we should have a design so that we get some movement on this. And the other thing that's key is that we are marking this as accepted, and that we are committing that we will build this functionality at some point. Yeah, so I'll do sorry.
Yeah, I think at some point we have to communicate that these, right now it's labeled 120 release candidates. We're gonna have to turn these into commitments at some point, right? Doesn't have to be this week, but at some point we should have a good idea of what we're actually gonna be delivering.
Yeah,
But we can always, push things out and communicate it to the community.
So I'll put a thing in here. I'll just take a minute to type it up properly, but I will keep this window open. I'll put a thing in here to say, because this is an Envoy filter with the reference, we are going to change the policy on this one and implement this. We're going to work on implementing this in Contour directly rather than requiring external auth to do this. And first step one is having a design. The fact that this issue is in 120 means that we're going to commit to working on a design for 120, and then we'll see how, in regards to final delivery, we'll have to see how the design goes and how big the work is. Something like that. Sound reasonable? Cool. Okay, I will do that one. I'll do that one as soon as we close this out. I don't know about anyone else. I'm probably done with triaging for the moment. Can we call it here?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop.
So I think it looks pretty good now, 120.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we just need to do this a bit more often and walk through the issues and talk about them. The more that we do it, the better it'll be.
It's our first long release, so we'll get in a groove pretty soon.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, thanks everyone. Stop sharing, and
All right, have
I
a good
will
one.
see everyone around.
See you.
Bye.